Hi, everybody. Jean McDonald here with Transition Tip Tuesday. And today I was thinking back on when I first became a caregiver, the very first time. And I was actually volunteering with the Fish and Wildlife Department. I was living on Midway Island out in the middle of the Pacific. I had been out there for 5.5 months. And then I got the call from my mom saying that she had cancer. It was fortunate is I was really finished up with my work out on the island by that time, and I got permission to leave my little um, uh, tour or term with Fish and Wildlife early. And I remember I got back to Seattle, basically jumped on a bus that got me down to LA, jumped on a train, and got to Gallup, New Mexico, where my mom was. And then I stayed with her, went to doctor's appointments, um, learned from the oncologist that she had two different types of cancer, how they were going to approach treating her cancer at her age because she was already in her 70s. And it was such an intense emotional process for me that at that time my period stopped. I wasn't well just in the anticipation of going through the cancer treatments with her. Fortunately, all that worked out fairly well. She had surgery. She was on a medication to slow the cancer. She had two different types of breast cancer. So she had a double mastectomy. Cancer was already in the lymph nodes, but they thought that the fast growing cancer would be slowed down, and the slow growing cancer they weren't even going to try to treat. And so she got through the surgery, got through recovery, and I eventually came back to the Seattle area and got back to my life. I had been gone from my life at this point for about 7, maybe 8 months of being back on the mainland and looking back at my life and dealing with that. So I just want to say that when you're kind of first called on to be a caregiver, it can be almost anytime you're called on to be a caregiver, it's going to be an intense emotional experience. And you're going to try to take on a lot of the emotions yourself. There's going to be worry about your loved one's condition, how it's going to play out, how everything's going to work out. I was under intense worry and concern when I flew to New Mexico after my brother had his seizure 2 years ago, that I needed to go down there, tell him he had to move, pack him up and move him to Seattle from New Mexico. And the anticipation of that, the worry, was just almost overwhelming. And I was so relieved when I got there that my brother's friends and my brother's landlord had already talked to him, had prepared him for the transition. I tried to get my mom to transition to live with me. Her cancer did come back. I think it was about 6 years after the surgery and the treatments. She did have esophageal cancer come back. And at that time, she didn't decide she didn't want treatment. But I prepared a place, here in Washington State for her in hopes that I could get her to move to stay with me so I could care for her. And she wouldn't do it. She had lived in Gallup, New Mexico all her life and kind of felt unfair to force her to move at that point, as long as she could have some care. And it worked out until she passed away. But the transitions that the person you're caring for are going through are tremendous, but you're going to realize that there's going to be a lot to the transition of you taking on that responsibility, taking on that role. So just remember to try to take care of yourself. Realize that the burden of worry is going to take a toll on you physically. Find ways to balance it out. I probably could have done better at that both times, but I was fortunate that when I dealt with my brother, it was kind of the third time of being a caregiver. So some things weren't as foreign, but that first time can be really intense. So take it easy, forgive yourself. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna do the best that you can, and things may turn out wrong, but you can't take that on. No guilt. Forgive yourself. You're doing your best. So with that, please have a great week, a lovely week ahead. My theme is Live Each Day with Love in Your Heart. My website is Care Without Despair, and I'm going to start putting more information out on how to be a first-time caregiver. So this is a little bit of my introduction to that. So thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.